waiting for something to happen. So his hope was, he says to David, that you and Absalom would take each other out, and then he could become king like he was supposed to. David listens to this particular perspective. David goes into this particular perspective, and you have got to understand, brothers and sisters, when he goes into this perspective, you got to understand that David says, you know what, you can take all of what belongs to Mephibosheth. But brothers and sisters, this is interesting because all of this happens at the top of the mountain. But brothers and sisters, what's more tragic about this is none of the stuff that Ziba said was actually true. He took a moment where he could have been the responsible person for David and Mephibosheth. And what he decided to do is to use his moment for his own personal gain. Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, this brings to light that familiar phrase, with friends like this, who needs enemies? But again, notice the location of where he mismanages the moment. He's at the top of the mountain. That is because, brothers and sisters, the tension in this text is Ziba comes to David and he says, humbly bow down. That's what the last verse 4 says. Bow down means to bow down with the face to the earth. This appears to be the best posture for Ziba, isn't it? But however, brothers and sisters, upon further investigation, we find out that his humility has no authenticity. Because there is a possibility, brothers and sisters, of having what they call false humility. That is when you're pretending to be humble instead of practicing being humble. Can I tell you, sometimes we've mastered the appearance thereof, but we haven't mastered the substance. Can I tell you, humility is not about what you say, it's about what you do. Many have mastered the language but haven't mastered the lifestyle, because humility is not thinking less of yourself, but humility is thinking of yourself less. Did y'all catch that? That is not thinking less of yourself, but it is thinking of yourself less. That simply means that you can't be selfish, self-centered, or self-seeking and still call yourself humble. Because the premise of humility, brothers and sisters, is this one truth: it's not about you. Look at somebody and say, it ain't about you. And can I tell you, brothers and sisters, this mountain for Ziba, this mountain for David was interesting, because can I tell you, child of God, that God has some mountains for us. But we must understand that some mountains are for elevation and other mountains are for examination. What you mean, Pastor? For David, it was an examination of how he would handle the challenge of having friends and family turn his back on him. But for Ziba, it was not about the challenge, it was about his character. Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, the higher God takes you on certain mountains, the more that it exposes about you. See, oftentimes we think that people change when they get on the mountain. But the truth is, they didn't change, they just got exposed. And Ziba's put to the test to see how much integrity he possessed, and how he handled the fragile nature of helping a person in need, and how he handles a person who needs him. In addition, brothers, to the examination put to the test whether you maximize the opportunity or you manipulate the opportunity. Can I tell you, Ziba failed at this test on the mountain because he understood that many of us pray for God to give us mountains, only to mismanage it when he gives it to us. Can I tell you, God has more mountains for AimWell Missionary Baptist Church. God has more mountains for AimWell Missionary Baptist Church. I thought I was talking to my church today. I'm going to try it one more time. God has more mountains for AimWell Missionary Baptist Church. But don't you forget that some mountains are for elevation, and others for examination. Can I tell you that this test is failed by Ziba because he fails the test because he lacks humility and integrity. These are two attributes that go hand in hand. And can I tell you, humility and integrity is an inside job. Because can I tell you, you can pretend all you want. You can put your mask on all you want. But God has a way of putting you in a position to show where your heart really is. Do I have a witness in here? Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, this is not about our presentation, but it's simply about how we authentically serve God. See, can I tell you, integrity is what you do when no one is watching. And can I tell you, I know this ain't shout material for you, but can I tell you that if God can't trust you when nobody's watching you, I wish I had somebody in here. He can't trust you when you're on the mountain and everybody is watching you. Do I have a witness in here? So here's the punchline. Managing your mountain requires that you handle, get this, the height of the opportunity with the humility that the opportunity requires. That is, managing your mountain requires that you handle the intensity of the opportunity with the integrity that God has given you. And can I tell you, when we mismanage mountains, we are not humble on the mountain. And when you are not humble on the mountain, can I tell you, you are destined to tumble down that same mountain. Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, the admonition this morning is that don't mismanage your mountain. Can I give you what this text is teaching us today? Here it is. Number one, I believe that this text is teaching us we mismanage our mountain. Get this. Because when we are not humble, we fumble the favor of God. Did you catch it? When we're not humble, we fumble. Somebody shout fumble. The favor of God. Must understand, brothers and sisters, that Saul's household was destroyed, and the only person that remained was Mephibosheth and Ziba. And you must understand that David decided to employ Ziba to work for him. That's favor. Because if you understand anything about the Roman culture, the Jewish culture, you understand back in the monarch's days, whoever remained from the previous administration would be killed by the new administration, because the new administration couldn't avoid and couldn't help to have people from the old administration trying to sabotage the new one. So the fact that David spares his life, that's called favor. But then he puts him to work, and he says, I want you to help me find Mephibosheth. He goes and finds him, and then what David did, he says, you know what? I'm going to bless Mephibosheth, but I'm not just going to bless him. I'm going to bless you too, Ziba. I'm going to give you a job. I'm going to let you do the same job that you lost when Saul died. I'll give you this blessing. All of this is favor, brothers and sisters. But here's the revelation. The sign of Ziba's life is that David not only spares his life, but also let him be a part of the kingdom. Can I tell you, this was unheard of. To let somebody from Saul's camp work in yours? Can I tell you, you know you got favor when God gives you stuff that you shouldn't have. Gives you stuff that makes absolutely no sense to anybody else. You didn't have the credentials. You didn't have the resume. But God gave it to you anyway. But here's the fumble. That's the favor. Notice the fumble, y'all. The text says that he takes this favor from David and he fumbles it because he chooses to take advantage of David. Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, he told David that Mephibosheth was in Jerusalem waiting on power to come back to him. He told David all of this stuff, and he thought, I know how to get this situation. I know how to take advantage of this situation. I'm going to tell the king what I want him to know, just so he can do what I want him to do. Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, one of the most tragic things we can do is to take advantage of the people God has sent to bless us. And can I tell you, brothers and sisters, this text is leading us in this direction, is that Ziba left Mephibosheth behind, who he was supposed to be taken care of, all because he saw an opportunity. Can I tell you, Ziba fumbles God's favor because he chose being an opportunist rather than the opportunity. The opportunity for him is to help David while he is in need. But a moment of David's need becomes a moment that reveals Ziba's greed. He uses David's time of need to his advantage, brothers and sisters. And get this, you all, what the problem that this point shows us, brothers and sisters, is that you can't have mountaintop opportunities and valley low integrity. Do I have a witness in here? And can I tell you, we have a tendency to ask God to give us more. We have a tendency to ask God to elevate us and escalate and accelerate our lives. But the question that we have to ask ourselves, can you handle being blessed? Do I have a witness in here? Because then I tell you that when we don't, when our integrity and our humility does not match the opportunity, we fail and we fumble the favor of God. I know y'all ain't gonna shout here, but let me tell you, brothers and sisters, I don't know who I'm talking to, but there is some opportunity that is coming your way. And before you get the opportunity, you got to make sure you have the proper amount of integrity. Because if God can't trust you when people aren't watching, how can he trust you when people are? Can I tell you why I try to be ethical? It's because I understand that I have to do in private when nobody's watching, so that when people are, there's some quality of service. I hope my finance team doesn't remind me sharing this, but it just hits me. Back in January, you all celebrated my birthday, and while you were celebrating my birthday, one of the members, made a mistake of putting their tithes in the pastor, I love my pastor, envelope. Ethically, Terrence, ethically, now technically it's in the envelope that's designated for me, but the person wrote tithe on it. And so the question is, Pastor Trey, what did you do with tithe money that was in your envelope? I put it towards the tithe. And here's the catch, none of y'all would have found out about it. But I don't have integrity because y'all are watching me, but I have integrity because nobody is watching me, because true integrity ain't worried about who's watching you. True integrity is one that God is always watching. That's what kind of pastor you got. I don't do right because I'm scared y'all gonna catch me. I do right because God can always catch me. Do I have a witness in here? Yeah. Somebody shout integrity. Yeah. We shout about faith and biblical scripture, and we shout about lifting our hands, but can I tell you what's going to get us and keep us on the mountain? It's not our shout. It's not our hallelujah. It's our integrity and our humility. Can I tell you, here's the second thing the text is teaching, brothers and sisters, that we mismanage mountains when we are not humble, because when we're not humble, we're destined to stumble. Here's what's interesting to note, y'all. He goes on this mountain playing the gift-giving game. You know what the gift-giving game is, don't you? He says, if I give him this, I'm going to get something in return. He says, I'm going to give these gifts in order to get what I want. Can I tell you, brothers and sisters, when you play that kind of game, usually you never get what you want in the first place. And what we discover from the text is that whenever you play games on the mountain, you get played. Because can I tell you, brothers and sisters, the way we handle things when we play these kind of dangerous games, can I tell you, child of God, that your humility and integrity is always exposed, because while people may not know, God always knows. But here's the stumble. He lies on the mountain, misleads on the mountain, takes advantage of the king on the mountain. And y'all, that's in chapter 16. But in chapter 19, can I tell you what happens? What happens in chapter 19, y'all? Chapter 19 says this, y'all, that David comes back into contact with Ziba and Mephibosheth. And when he comes to that, Mephibosheth is present, and David says, "Where you been?" Mephibosheth says, "Man, what you mean where I've been? I've been grieving because you've been running from your son Absalom. I haven't shaved my beard. I haven't gotten dressed. I haven't showered, because my idea was I'm not going to be normal until the king is back in his palace." And then David says, "Wait a minute. I was told that you were going to turn your back on me. I was told that you were against me." He said, "No, king." He said, "Why would I do all of that after everything you've done for me?" And then David says, "All right, well, since there's an issue with the land, I tell you what, let's split the land in half. Half goes to Ziba and the other half goes to you, Mephibosheth." And Mephibosheth says, "You know what, king, let him have it all. Because all that matters to me is the king."